with 25 years of master plumbing expertise from Tim Morris and his hand-picked team. Whether it's a simple faucet repair or a complete bathroom remodel, if water runs to it or through it, they do it. From residential service calls to commercial to new construction, the folks at Ambassador are your neighbors treating you like family. Ambassador Plumbing, where faith meets craftsmanship. 636-383-6932 or ambassadorplumbing.com. That's ambassadorplumbing.com.
Hey folks, it's Jamie Allman here for the Walner home selling team of Berkshire Hathaway. I love this team so much, and Rodney and Jen love the team so much, I became a member. So now I'm an agent with the Walner home selling team of Berkshire Hathaway, and I can tell you, as a matter of fact, that we're going to get you into a home really super easily and with the lowest cost you're ever going to find, and make sure we find you that dream home. We're also going to list your home and get the top dollar for your home. I'm telling you, Rodney and Jen love this business. You can tell it is infectious, and I'm so happy to be a real estate agent there with them. 314-810-SOLD, 314-810-SOLD. Whether you are buying your home or selling your home, I'm telling you what, the costs are going to be absolutely totally minimal, but the professionalism and getting the job done for you is going to be 100%. The Walner home selling team of Berkshire Hathaway, 314-810-SOLD, 314-810-SOLD.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Pleasant temperatures today in the mid-60s under cloudy skies at times. Not a lot of sunshine, but very comfortable out. We're looking at lows tonight in the mid to upper 40s, so a chilly start to the day on Wednesday, but the high around 80 degrees. And then on Thursday, of course, is the home opener for the Cardinals. That temperature into the low 90s. That'll be a record high, but it won't be too humid. We'll have some cloud cover and a nice breeze. In the First Alert Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of Colombo and Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Hello and welcome to Tuesday afternoon on Colombo and Company. 119-94.1 News Talk STL. Thank you so much for being with us on this extremely busy day. We've got a lot to talk about, and we've got some help from great company on Colombo and Company to talk about these things. Day two of a resurfaced statement by a famous Democrat that is getting them in some hot water. Yesterday it was the First Lady of California, Gavin Newsom's wife, who had some unfortunate quotes of her past brought back to light. And today it's happening to Democratic Senator Chris Murphy. We'll fill you in on that. We've got, of course, the latest coming out of Iran. We've got a very concerning and I would say surprising, but it's not surprising because it's kind of what we predicted. At least according to a new report from Fox News, it looks like the Republicans are ready to cave on the demands from the Democrats to reopen the government and end the partial government shutdown. So that is not good, and we'll fill you in on the details and see just how bad it is as we go through the afternoon. We are also going to, in the 3 o'clock hour, talk to our legal expert, Susie Moore from Red State, redstate.com. And, of course, she is the co-host of Mike Ferguson in the Morning, every weekday morning here on News Talk STL. And we start things off as we do every Tuesday. He'll be with us for this entire hour, the great Crane Durham from NothingButTruth.com. And Crane, even though the Republicans may be ready to give in, I'm not. And on this busy day, brothers don't shake hands. Brothers got a hug.
Gotta hug. And remember, begin with the end in mind. That's Stephen Covey.
Yeah,
I read that
yes.
in his book.
And it's words to live by.
It is
Words
great.
to live by.
Great to be here with you, and a big hug to you.
Yeah, back at you, buddy. Let's start with the bad news. I wanted to start with the dunking on Chris Murphy, but maybe we'll need the fun stuff after the depressing stuff. So, yeah, Chad Pergam from Fox News has released a report that says the GOP eyes DHS funding ICE probes. This, he reports, is cobbled together from talking to various senior Senate Republican sources. And he reports that Senate Republicans are developing a plan to fund most aspects of DHS, leaving out controversial programs like certain ICE operations to end the 5.5-week partial government shutdown. This emerged after a meeting at the White House last night. There is a lot to sort out at the GOP conference luncheon at the Capitol today. However, Fox is told that the Senate could start to move forward on a plan to end the DHS shutdown as early as tonight. The new plan would fund ICE investigations like cartels, traffickers, and child predators, but they will leave unfunded programs for, quote, enforcement and removal, which is exactly what the Democrats have been asking for. Democrats have asked for unanimous consent on the floor to pass bills to fund DHS sans ICE. So Republicans have come around to the position that this is the only way out and this of this cul-de-sac, as he describes it, even if it reflects the Democrat position. Still, Republicans contend they are calling the Democrats' bluff. Quote, we're going to have to move forward and give them what they want, said one Senate Republican source, referring to the Democrats. But the question is whether the Democrats will balk, especially since this was their idea. Regardless, this approach would still need Democratic buy-in and need 60 votes to clear the filibuster. We need some more details to just figure out exactly how bad this is. But anything that starts with the sentence, we're going to give Republicans saying we're going to give them everything they want, and I guess hope that they still don't go along with it because they're trying to expose them, is a pretty dangerous approach. And I don't see the win here. If it works, you are still willing to go along with what they wanted. And if it doesn't work and they say, okay, we'll take it. I mean, you just lost your footing in the negotiation. Again, a lot more to learn here still, Crane. We don't have all the details, but that really concerns me.
It concerns me too. And I hear if reconciliation is mentioned in the report with Chad Pergam.
Pergam, yep.
Yes. And if that's the case, because here's what I'm seeing. The strategy is say, okay, we'll call you on your bluff. We'll actually cede your demands to make sure America gets moving again and we are safe. And then we're going to go around and we're going to go through reconciliation and we're going to fund everything we had anyway. And that's possibly the strategy. And even, I don't know if the SAVE Act would come under that. I think you got to pass that first on its
Well, I'm
merits.
glad you bring up the SAVE Act because it does make me worried about if the Republicans decide they're going to cave on this issue. It doesn't make me feel because this is kind of similar. They're at a stalemate. There doesn't seem to be any, room for negotiation. There doesn't seem to be any path forward. So let's just give in. And when you look at the SAVE Act, it's the exact same thing. There's no negotiations. It's a total standstill. There doesn't seem to be a path forward. So what are the Republicans going to do? Cave in again? I don't know why anybody would think that they wouldn't if this is what they're doing with the government shutdown and so many other things that we've seen in the past.
Well, reconciliation will be from what I understand, a simple majority within the Senate.
Yeah.
And so that's, again, they're seeing something and they say, well, okay, what's the overall goal? Get the funding, get the SAVE Act, work through. And what's happening right now? Well, you have absolute chaos, and it's been helped in the sense of ending the chaos through Donald Trump, or President Trump, with ICE taking over because it's under the umbrella of DHS. Nevertheless, people are frustrated, and so they say, we can get what we want through another process, and we can expose the Democrats. I'm trying to see the logic here. Expose the Democrats just want to delay and weaponize the government against the American people to achieve their legislative ends and hurt the American people in essence. And that's what I see. That would be kind of a strategy that I could see, a line of thinking, line of thought. Here's what bothers me the most.
Kind of sounds like 4D chess.
Yes, I know. But here's what bothers me most. There are a couple things, obviously. But first and foremost, why are we bending into a false narrative about ICE?
Exactly.
I think that sucks. And it's an insult to every law enforcement officer out there, period. And every time they talk about the people that were dead, let's talk about the people that encouraged those very people to behave in that manner.
Yes.
That would get them into a lethal situation.
And this encourages them to continue to use that strategy. Anytime the Democrats can look at this and say, anytime we're in a no-win situation, when we don't have the truth on our side, when we don't have the facts on our side, when we don't have the majority of public opinion on our side, let's just create chaos and let's get people hurt and killed. And then we can say, oh my God, it's terrible to have people get hurt and killed. You've got to stop this, even though they're the ones who started it. And if this truly is capitulation from the Republicans to the Democrats, then the lesson that you've taught is that is a successful strategy, and it will get more people hurt and killed in the future whenever there's another stalemate agenda item making news. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, it's oftentimes appeasement will lead to more aggression from your opponents. That's what happens. It's not as if they say, oh, well, Hitler was like, I got the Sudetenland now. Hey, all right, peace in our time. I'm just going to stay here. No, didn't happen.
No.
Japanese imperialism went all the way. Militaristic, imperialistic. So, I mean, we're talking about things that we know, and we don't want to get stuck on stupid. And with an aggressive plan to, first and foremost, say they want to defund, just like they did with the police. They want to defund ICE. That should be on every Republican's key message.
And it was a couple of days ago, because I reported on that, how Republicans had been, rightfully so in my opinion, comparing what the Democrats are trying to do with ICE in the government shutdown, comparing it to defund the police, and saying we are not going back to the days of giving validity to the defund the police message, so we can't move forward on any of these things. That was like less than a week ago. And now we're getting reports that they are ready to give in on those things.
Now, there were reports also that Trump said, hey, we want to keep this going because Democrats are losing, and I want to get the SAVE Act passed, and that should be a part of things. And he was connecting those. So today, most recently, because it changes, President Trump moves around on certain things. And he said he's working with Republicans.
Short attention span.
Yeah, working with Republicans to maybe go along with what they're going. He didn't say. He said, I want to help Republicans. So you got to read between. You never know till you actually know until it's done. The idea here is the false narrative doesn't go away once you capitulate to it. It continues to be used as a battering ram against the enforcement and against the policy. And oftentimes we see that whether it's in the courts, ignoring federal law, or, and I'm sure Susie Moore can tell us all about that, because obviously she's on it. The idea is to stop the policy, and it hurts the overall institution. And I don't want to go the way of Europe, where we're sitting there with billy clubs attempting to stop a terrorist act. I don't want to do that. I don't want to demonize our police so much, demonize our law enforcement officers' eyes so much that we cripple our national security. And I don't think the American people want that either. And I think it's an 80-20, 90-10 issue.
Yeah, no kidding. Absolutely. Absolutely it is. And the only reason it's not, if it's down to a 70-30, it's because we've allowed the Democrats to corrupt the message and lie about, what's actually happening and who are the ones to blame for it.
How tough is it? Yeah, not to interrupt,
No,
hopefully
please.
to interject, but the bottom line, how tough is it to explain what the Democrats have done? They got George Soros to elect bad prosecutors who would not prosecute the law, and he would basically no cash bail, so people would be right on out. There was no penalty for doing these tremendously harmful things, and they could be out doing it again. And that's what we've seen. And anybody who understands the prison population and how law enforcement is enforced through the judicial process understands the recidivism rate among a certain group of criminals. It has a large butcher's bill of activity. So if you lock them up for a long time with truth in sentencing, crime rates will go down.
Mm-hmm.
They will go down.
Mm-hmm.
And tell about what defund the police did, what the result was, because it was more death, more crime, more rape, more robberies. That's what it was. And demonizing the very people that put their lives on the line to enforce the law. And now we want to see that in ICE? No. And that didn't take more than a minute. Just get it out.
Yeah.
Tell the story, for flip's sake.
Yeah, explain it to the American people. So all that report, as I mentioned, was from Fox News. There's also a Newsmax report out right now that says that the president is considering backing this DHS compromise. So if the president obviously greenlights it as well, then it's all but over with. Again, still a lot of details to hammer out and to figure out. But when you have a Republican saying to Fox News, we're going to give them everything that they want, I don't know what else you need to know that this is probably not a good idea. But that's where we're at as it stands right now. So as we get more information and more of those details, we will, of course, let you know immediately. Talking to Crane Durham from nothingbutTruth.com here on Colombo and Company. And as I mentioned, a resurfaced clip has a Democratic senator sticking his foot in his mouth again. We'll get you the latest on that. We've got the latest coming out of the conflict in Iran. We've got a crazy story coming out of Minnesota about this Minnesota millionaire who was testing the system up there, basically trying to expose the fraud with their food stamp program. This millionaire signed up and got qualified for and given food stamps in the state of Minnesota. I mean, is that crazy or what? I'll tell you about that.
Crazy insane.
Yeah, you got that right.
Crazy.
We'll talk about all of those things and more as we continue with Crane Durham next.
Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL.
Fantastic. Yes, I listen on my phone.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
It is awesome.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app and listen anytime, anywhere.
Well, we have been on the weather roller coaster here recently. We've had freezing temperatures. We've had Temperatures nearly at 90 degrees. I think on just Thursday, coming up this Thursday, I think that the high is in the 90s and the low is in like the 50s or 40s. It's something crazy, just all in one day, how quickly the weather can change here in St. Louis. And of course, all of that comes along with some weather that we've seen, the freezing rain, the extreme winds that we've had. And that can cause problems for things like your gutters or your siding on your home or business. And that's where the great team at the Gutter Pros comes in to help. We talk, when Dave Sylvester from Gutter Pros is in studio with us, we talk a lot about the rain and the ice and how the wind and how the storms can, impact your fascia, soffit, gutter, siding, all of that stuff that Gutter Pros does for you. But we don't talk as much about the wind, and boy, have we seen some extreme wind here lately. But all of these weather factors can create a problem with your gutters or your siding or the fascia or soffit on your home or business, or it can, make a problem worse that is already, started to happen. And now, you've got more water coming in, or you've got ice freezing in your gutters, or maybe behind your siding because of some cracks and holes in your siding or whatever. And then over time, that just keeps happening more and more, and it creates more damage, and it becomes more costly as time goes on. That is why it is so important to call the Gutter Pros now. If you think you have an issue with your gutters or your siding, take advantage of their free estimates. Just give them a call, have them come out, take a look. If there's nothing wrong, great. You don't have anything to worry about anymore, and you can, have the peace of mind knowing that there's nothing to worry about. And if there is a problem, at least now you know what that problem is. And with the Gutter Pros, you can talk about your options to go about addressing those issues so they don't become more damaging and costly down the line. They are the best. We've had the Gutter Pros at our house multiple times over the years, and I cannot recommend them enough. Gutter Pros is your all-in-one gutter service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. And it's not just gutters. It is, of course, gutter repair, new gutter installation, and leaf protection, but also siding repair, siding installation, fascia, soffit. They do it all at the Gutter Pros. Learn more and contact them now by going to gutterpros.com.
If you have a tree that you think is dead, it might not be dead. Why don't you try to save it first with Roots Plus? Roots Plus can help you save your tree and keep your cash. RootsPlusLLC.com. That's RootsPlusLLC.com or 314-440-3662.
Want a hands-free light that does not strap to your head or held in your mouth? Meet Dex Fingerlight at fingerlight.com. The Kryptonite ring fits any finger pointing light exactly where you need it. Place decoys, handle gear, get close to roosted gobblers, fast, easy, stealthily. 3 light modes, waterproof, extremely durable. Developed by a father and son's Missouri team, Dex Fingerlight is faster and easier than a headlamp. Use discount code TONY20 for 20% off at fingerlight.com.
You can feel the Clydesdales circling the field. Hear the stands come alive. Smell the hot dogs, the popcorn, and cold beer in the air. See the crowd rise as the first pitch hits the glove. And just like that, a new season begins. The countdown is on until opening day, and tickets start at just $49. Don't miss St. Louis's favorite holiday. Get your tickets at cardinals.com/opening day.
Swings, and it's a high fly ball. That's hit deep. It's a gutter! It's a gutter! And a game winner!
Start the season in style on Saturday, March 28th. The Cardinals welcome the Tampa Bay Rays for a spring showdown downtown. That day, you can score a lightweight Cardinals pullover, a navy blue look built for early season nights, and easy everyday wear. Comfortable, classic, and ready for cool evenings at the ballpark. It's a layer you'll reach for all season long. Get tickets and details at cardinals.com/promotions.
On the next
Larry Connors USA.
The story behind the story. The 2009 massacre at Fort Hood.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
On the floors of Tokyo,
Hey, welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. Crane, I've had people tell me how much they hate it when I come in singing. And I just can't help it. I just can't.
Put me on the other side of that one.
Tony
Strongly
is so
disagree.
annoying. He sings when I come in from break, and it's so stupid. I just want the news.
It's like the 80s all over again. We're singing with the songs. Come on now.
Bounce with the music and get the news and have a little fun all in one, right?
Yes.
And hug your best friend, right? You can do
Absolutely. All of those things.
All of those
and
things.
more.
And more here on Colombo and Company on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. I am Tony Colombo, and that is Crane Durham from NothingButTruth.com. Let me tell you about Senator Chris Murphy, because like I said, we exposed the First Lady of California, Gavin Newsom's wife. She was called out for some statements in the past, and it was making news, had gotten back in the news cycle, and everybody's talking about it yesterday. And here we go again. Same story, different person. Democratic Senator Chris Murphy is dealing with a resurfaced post discussing the people Democrats, quote, care about the most. And I remember this. I remember when this happened, and I remember talking about it on the air when it happened. So it was ridiculous then. They said the quiet part out loud. Maybe on accident, maybe not. And we called them out on it then, and we're going to call them out on it again now because it is making news again. He was speaking, this resurfaced clip is sparking social media outrage from conservatives, making the case it points to the priorities of the current Democratic Party, and it ties into the DHS funding argument, which, of course, surrounds ICE. In the clip posted last night by a conservative account called End Wokeness, MSNBC host Chris Hayes asked Murphy, and this is from 2024, about negotiations between Democrats and Republicans happening at the time about a border security bill. Hayes pressed Murphy on, I'm sure Chris Hayes was really...
He was really super aggressive.
Giving Chris Murphy, Democratic
yeah.
Senator Chris Murphy, the business. Hayes pressed Murphy on why Democrats were pushing to get funding for Ukraine instead of pushing for a path to citizenship for illegal immigrants, as the party had done in the past. To that, Senator Chris Murphy answered Chris Hayes, quote, Chris, that's been a failed play for 20 years. So you are right that has been the Democrats' strategy for 30 years, maybe, and it has failed to deliver for the people we care about the most, the undocumented Americans that are in this country. Again, we have failed to deliver for the people we care about the most, the undocumented Americans that are in this country. The sharks smelled blood in the water and attacked when he said it. And they're doing it again now that it's been resurfaced. And while I think it's great and important that we remind folks that this is their mindset, and I'm glad he's getting lit up about it, but is anything going to happen from it? Are any lessons going to be learned? Or are we just going to say, hey, look, we exposed you, and then just move on and forget about it? Because apparently we're going to cave in on the DHS issue anyway, so what's it matter if they're caught with their foot in their mouth? What do you think?
Well, I think my dog Harrison is really
he is. Harrison's
I mean,
hot. He's red
anytime
hot.
That, because it really bothers him.
He's never liked Chris Murphy. He's always had it out for Senator Murphy.
Well, he knows the legislative agenda that man is pushing,
does.
And it's wrong. And he just he can't hold himself back.
No,
right.
and I don't blame him one bit. He's a good dog. That's a good boy.
I agree. Good boy.
Good boy.
All right. So when we are breaking this down, why does this fit? It fits because the strategy has been to flood the zone with illegals in order to increase the numbers for the Democratic Party so they have a permanent majority. And obviously, we've seen the corruption with the census on more representatives because of mere population and not declaring citizens versus citizens only. So, this is something that fits into, do you believe that he really does care about? That's the thing. Is it believable? Maybe he misspoke. It's hard to misspeak when you make a declaration of the people we care about most, undocumented. I mean, it's not like a quick, glib response. It's you're declaring it. And do we see that as true? Yes, I think we have, certainly when it comes to the enforcement of our immigration laws, because we have a butcher's bill from not enforcing our immigration laws, and they were not more concerned with Americans getting killed. They were more concerned with the overall population of illegals, undocumented immigrants, however you want to put it. And by the way, I will say this, the vast majority of those, or a majority of those, are not all killing people. Obviously, there'd be just a ton more death. However, they're not documented, meaning they're most likely here illegally, and that is a crime, and it does take to our resources. And I know there's been a number of studies done on illegal immigration, and I would just point to the Center for Immigration Studies that has gone over the benefits, welfare benefits, etc. And the more do undocumented immigrants pay in, and do illegal aliens pay in more than they get out? And when you put the families, they add their families, no, they do not. They actually take more resources. Some studies, I believe Cato does not count the parents, it's only the individual. So that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I agree. And I just hope that that lesson is remembered by everyone. I hope that, this is something that sticks. It doesn't get forgotten about, because the reason why it's such a big story right now is because everybody did forget that he said it in 2024. And, we're trying to expose this mindset, and hopefully.
Let me ask you a question.
Please.
Do you think if Biden's statements in the past in 2020 were brought up like they bring up things for Republicans, would he have ever won the election?
We could. There are so many. You could with like, this is making news today, this one statement by Senator Chris Murphy. You could have one for every day of the week for years, going back and pulling quotes from Joe Biden and some of the ridiculous things that he said, the offensive things, the stupid things, the clueless things. I mean, like, just so many. And no, to answer your question, that will never, that type of even playing field will never happen,
but it is changing, but it is a huge part of the offense for Democrats that oftentimes project their own racism onto the Republicans. It's all projection. We're sitting there going, where'd you get that idea? No, we don't feel that way, because they feel that. They experience it. There are people in their party that believe in that. And so therefore, Republicans must be doing it because it's worse and Republicans are evil.
Yeah.
And so that's a part of the calculus that's shaping our political future. And I'm thinking about just this midterm, but going forward, because at a certain point, they've lost credibility, and it's very important that there is great communication and communicators out there getting the key messages out, because like the SAVE Act, the ideas for Republicans, conservative ideas, not always the same thing, but the ideas are very popular with the American people. So I'm saying, why on earth, how could this, like, elections be even close if you just did the issue to issue? And Trump has made this point, President Trump has made this point a number of times. And I believe it's communication, but also they are buffered by
mainstream media.
They
look, the deck is stacked against the Republicans. There's no doubt about that when it comes to messaging. However, as you pointed out just now, and as you pointed out in the last segment when we were talking about the DHS funding and all of those things, that Republicans have not done a good job of telling their own story. So it's a double whammy that is incredibly destructive when you have already you're already operating with an unfair playing field. And then on top of it, you're not very good at the game.
Right.
You're being cheated. You're playing a game. You're playing a game where the rules are stacked against you, and you're not very good at that game. So, that's why the
Well, that was
Republicans
Obamacare.
come
If you
short.
recall, when they had that summit, it was the Republicans, the House Republican, maybe some in the Senate, but Paul Ryan was there. And then it was the Democrats. And then it was President Obama who was the moderator. And I was sitting there going, you are walking in. This is the only way this kind of crap that really hurts people can get in.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you imagine if there was an old clip? Like, this is the second time that this Senator Murphy statement has made news. It made news the first time he said it, and now again when he said that the people that we most care about are the undocumented Americans in this country. Talking about himself and his Democratic colleagues in Congress. Can you imagine if there was an old clip of Donald Trump saying, like, yeah, the people that we care the most about, white guys, it would be game over. It would be game over. It would be completely unrecoverable. And by the way, it should be completely unrecoverable if somebody were to say something like that. But Chris Murphy says it, or Democrats say it, and we get mad, but but nothing sticks.
Yeah, imagine if we go 24 days into a war and we've decimated the enemy, and people say that we're somehow in a quagmire and losing.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like that.
I want to talk about that real quick too. Iran. I'm glad you bring that up. Mixed messages today from the leaders of the two countries. An Iranian military spokesman defiantly vowed today that Iran's armed forces will fight, quote, until complete victory. Despite suffering heavy losses from a joint U.S.-Israeli campaign, the remark from Major General Ali Abdali Alibadi? Yeah.
He may be related to Baghdad Bob.
He's in Iran's top military command, comes after President Donald Trump paused planned U.S. strikes on Iran yesterday, citing diplomatic progress. This guy said, quote, Iran's powerful armed forces are proud, victorious, and steadfast in defending Iran's integrity, and this path will continue until complete victory. Iranian state television quoted the general as saying, according to the Associated Press, it added that he did not say what complete victory would look like. And then that happens on the same day where, I don't know if you saw this, but just a little bit ago at the White House, at the swearing in for Mark Wayne Mullen, the senator, Trump said, quote, this war has been won and Iran wants to make a deal. So we're still waiting for what the specifics of that deal are. But Donald Trump said yesterday that he thought that the whole conflict would be wrapped up in the next 5 days. And then today he says that the war is won and Iran is ready to talk. What do you think? What do you think about where we are right now with the situation with Iran?
Well, I would also, if permitted, to add the fact that he also said that the Iranians gave him a gift, and it's related through other questioning to the Straits of Hormuz. So that's something, I believe that's the fact. But definitely he said a gift, and everybody's like, what gift? I think what President Trump is doing is speaking to the victory of, yes, if you take any measure, we've won that. Has the mulocracy fallen? No, you've still got a repressive regime. They seem to be talking to somebody who can deliver, and they've always talked about the fact that if somebody can deliver, they have some guns behind them. Israel, I think, is looking to arm those who would overthrow the regime. And 35,000 slaughtered, you sit there and go, you know what? There's a really popular idea to get rid of these nut jobs. My concern in hearing all this was they're trying to find a moderate mullah, in that mulocracy, and they're not. There's not one. You've got to go with somebody else. Now, the so-called moderate mullah that they could be dealing with in that, because the two sections of their leadership have been eviscerated, could be a stepping stone to a new leader, new system. But obviously tread very carefully in doing that. I will tell you this, Donald Trump is the bravest president of my lifetime, and that includes Reagan. I guess I'd say they're the same in bravery, and he's followed through and he's delivered. And so I am very hesitant to say, oh, President Trump is doing this, because the next day it could turn around, and that was used to send a signal that, hey, we can make a deal or you can die. And so there's some messaging that's going on underneath here.
Well, now is the time that we need that backbone and that resilience and that bravery to stay the course more than ever. If this phase is indeed over, and now we are on to phase 2, which is, watching as the new government is installed and whoever takes over there and how that's going to look and who's going to, make sure that our allies in that part of the world are playing a much more hands-on role than we are when it comes to assistance with installation and rebuilding of that country. We'll have to, this is when that is going to really be put to the test. And just real quick here, just to back up what Crane was saying, to give you the details there, Trump said today that Iran had made a major energy-related, or given a major energy-related gift to the United States, describing it as a positive development, although he did not give details. Trump suggested the gift was related to the Strait of Hormuz, saying, quote, "They gave us a present, and the present arrived today, and it was a very big present."
He can tease, can he?
Yeah.
Hey, find out
it was
next
a present.
episode.
It was a present. It was a big present. It was a good present. It was a shiny present. It was an important, good, shiny, big present. He said, worth a tremendous amount of money. That's part of the real quote. He went on to say it wasn't nuclear. It was oil and gas related, and it was a very nice thing that they did. So we're still waiting for the details on that, but definitely inferring that it has to do with the strait. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that, and we'll let you know as soon as Trump unwraps that gift and shows it to us. We will let you know. All right, before we run out of time with Crane Durham and talk to Susie Moore, who will be with us in the 3 o'clock hour, I want to tell you about this Minnesota millionaire who qualified for food stamps, just to show you just how bad the fraud scheme and just how awful these systems that are in place there in the state of Minnesota, and unfortunately other states around the country, just how bad they truly are. So we'll fill you in on that and more as we continue with Crane Durham from NothingButTruth.com next on Colombo Company.
For podcast articles and more, find TalkSTL.com. If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Wherever I'm at, home, car, wherever.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
If you have a phone, you have a radio. Just a convenience on the phone. Streaming live on the mobile app.
Love the new app.
And listen anytime.
Everywhere.
Anywhere.
42% of Missouri fourth graders can barely read. 42%. It's the worst result in 20 years. If kids can't read by third grade, they fall behind in school, and many never catch up. But other states have provided a roadmap for success. Missouri needs one universal reading test for all third graders and one clear statewide standard for what it means to pass that test. A struggling reader who still can't read after extra help and a second chance at the test should repeat third grade with some exemptions. We also need to end the outdated 3Qing method, which encourages guessing instead of reading, and require teachers to be trained in the science of reading. In Mississippi and Indiana, test scores jumped up dramatically after these reforms, and Missouri can do the same. Missouri children deserve to become confident, capable readers, and strong early literacy reforms can make it happen. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by the Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
This hour of Colombo & Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Welcome back to Colombo & Company on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL. Tony Colombo here in studio with Crane Durham from nothingbutruth.com on the line with us. And Crane, this is a good one. Minnesota millionaire qualified for food stamps ahead of a hearing where Minnesota lawmakers will discuss food stamp fraud. Fox News Digital spoke to a millionaire who says he was able to qualify for food stamps through a loophole in the system, one that he hopes will soon be closed as the state grapples with a massive fraud scandal. Rob Undersander, what a name, Undersander, a retired engineer who volunteers to help seniors navigate the government benefits system, said he learned during training that eligibility for SNAP in Minnesota, the food stamp program, was based on income only, not assets. Because his retirement income was low, he realized he could qualify even though he had a significant amount of savings and property. To test the system, Undersander applied for benefits in Streams County, Minnesota, and was approved within weeks. He later said he collected thousands of dollars in SNAP benefits over more than a year, which he donated to charity in an effort to draw attention to the issue. Quote, I strongly support SNAP benefits for truly needy individuals, but when we have nearly 1 in 7 Americans receiving food support in the wealthiest nation on earth with historically low unemployment rate, something is wrong. One might call the current eligibility rules fraud by design. And given the current climate of fraud and abuse of taxpayer-funded benefits in Minnesota, I'm hoping that there will be a new bipartisan effort to reduce and eliminate both. So this guy, who is a millionaire with literally millions of dollars in the bank in savings and various properties all over the place, because he was retired and no longer drawing a big income because he's just living off his millions, he qualified for food stamps in Minnesota. And he says that this wasn't an oversight or a loophole or a mistake. He says that this was fraud by design. And this is a guy who lives in that state, is very familiar with the tax code and with how all these benefits work because he works with seniors to try to make sure that the seniors are getting everything that they can get out of the system. Even if they're millionaires, apparently, they can get food stamps. So I tend to take his word on something like this over somebody like, Tim Walz or Keith Ellison. This is crazy. What do you think of this?
I think the war on poverty is an ultimate failure. Some would make would recognize that having children out of wedlock was encouraged and therefore remove the father. And as we've seen, that has a lot of societal impact in negative ways. So was it by design? When a Democrat looks at a problem, I think they look to solve it, but their way of solving it is to grow the problem. It's going to get bigger and bigger because they don't understand human nature, or they're willfully blind and they're just into power, which I don't know all of their hearts, but I got to believe they have an IQ above room temperature and understand that if there's so much waste, fraud, and abuse, why would you continue a program or even expand the program? And when these things come up where you don't have verification, it all goes to the fact that really the federal government should have nothing to do with the welfare state. And state governments should have limited capacity, and the rest is taken care of by churches and organizations, not
community charitable organizations.
They know where the money's going. If somebody comes in, it's called accountability.
And they're a lot better about knowing the problem, as you mentioned. They're a lot better about knowing the problems and how to address the problems. Get this, Crane. This guy did this in 2016, 10 years ago, and it's nothing's ever changed. And he's been literally doing this, like giving away the food stamps for 10 years and trying to call attention to it for 10 years, and nothing has changed. It shows you that they want the fraud by design is, in my opinion, what he's referring to there is the fact that they don't care about who's really in need. They want as many people as they can get, whether they are truly in need or they're just looking for something free. They want as many people as they can get, dependent on the bosom of the government. Yes. And get you addicted to that free money coming in from the government, because who's going to vote out the party that's giving them free money? They don't care about taking care of people. They just care about getting as many people addicted to the system as possible and, staying in power.
Government is a false god, and it's a really bad daddy. It doesn't deliver. And so if this were a Republican, conservative Republican in that state, of the great state of California, I wonder what they would do. I wonder how many stories would have been written, because what we've seen is whenever there's an issue like this, it is all over the place. And how could you heartless bastard, pardon me, but that's what basically people say to the leader. Like, look at you, and you want to do this, and not one. And it really points out the overall problem. If we can't get a message out, or the message is so corrupted, or it's suppressed, as we've seen in the past decade, then we've got major league issues. And these elections have consequences big time.
And if you tell people that they don't have to work, that they've earned it, that they don't have to try hard, they don't have to get good grades, they don't have to work, they deserve everything for free, and you give them that that is no way to sustain a
not
country.
Compassionate. It's not
compassionate, and it's not sustainable.
Right.
And they know that. But they don't care about the future. They don't care about our future. They care about being in power right now. That's all they care about. And that's
to back
proof.
Yeah.
Here.
And to back that up, why would they continue to invest in programs that are hurting the American people?
Yeah, exactly. Crane Durham from NothingButTruth.com and the Nothing But Truth Facebook page. Great stuff as always, buddy. Great to talk with you. Look forward to talking again soon.
Thank you.
Love you too. And we'll talk to you very soon. Have a great rest of your day.
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome stuff there from Crane Durham. All right, we are going to continue. It looks like the Supreme Court is considering a mail-in balloting rule. We'll talk about it with Susie Moore next.
As you know, Vincent's is not just my favorite jeweler. Vincent's is my only jeweler. And I was in recently looking at lab-grown diamonds. These are not glass. They are actual diamonds, but they cost a fraction of a natural diamond. You can check them out at Vincents.com, or better yet, see these lab-grown diamonds in person. You're going to be amazed at the beauty and the price. Vincent's Jewelers, VincentsJewelers.com.
Don't let spring surprises ruin your comfort. Johnson Heating and Cooling in Wentzville is offering air conditioner checkups for just $99. We'll check your Freon, inspect your condensate hose, and test all electrical connections. Plus, we'll clean your system for no additional charge if you act before June 30th. Keep your home running smoothly this season. Visit Johnson-heatingandcooling.com. That's Johnson-heatingandcooling.com. Johnson Heating and Cooling. Your comfort, our priority.
Hey, looking for the ultimate escape? Well, welcome to Santino's, where luxury meets authenticity. Hey, Jamie Allman here, inviting you to browse hundreds of premium cigars in the walk-in humidor, including rare aged cigars, and explore 700 bottles of whiskey. And Santino's offers authentic Sicilian cuisine prepared from scratch. Whether it's their non-smoking wine room, gaming lounge with custom poker tables, or event spaces perfect for any celebration, it's Santino's, just off 55 at the Imperial exit. Santino's Cigar Cocktails.
Hey, it's Susie Moore for Window World. Window World of St. Louis has improved the look and thermal efficiency for over 80,000 customers in St. Louis. Plus, Window World windows come with a lifetime warranty that covers all parts, glass breakage, and labor. And now, Window World is offering 36 months, same as cash financing with approved credit. Call them today at 800-GET-WINDOWS for a free in-home, no-pressure estimate. That's Window World at 800-GET-WINDOWS. They're the preferred window of the St. Louis Blues.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news at Town Hall. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. ICE has deployed immigration and customs enforcement agents to 14 airports around the country. Their job to help during the Department of Homeland Security shutdown. Sean Root is executive secretary of the union that covers TSA workers in the West and says they can't go on much longer without pay.
We have mortgages, car loans, personal loans. None of these are paused because of a shutdown. The bills continue to come. Our members are still being told, go find loans, go borrow money. It doesn't happen. A lot of people exhausted those funds and those opportunities during the last shutdown.
There's word the Senate is closing in on a compromise that would approve funding for some divisions of Homeland Security, including TSA. The investigation continues into Sunday night's deadly collision at New York's LaGuardia Airport.
Stop, truck one. Stop. Stop, truck one. Stop.
That sound captured on liveatc.net of the air traffic controller trying to warn the fire truck. Then 20 minutes later.
Yeah, I know I was here. I tried to reach out to my stuff, and we were dealing with an emergency earlier, and I messed up.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says air traffic control staffing was not an issue. The front of the Air Canada jet torn apart. The two pilots killed. Flight attendant Solange Tremblay ejected while strapped into her jump seat.
And that is a report from correspondent Julie Walker. A spokesman for Iran's top military command now says its armed forces will, quote, fight until complete victory.
The comments by Major General Ali Abdullani Ali-Abadi of the Qatan al-Anbiya Central Headquarters appear related to U.S. President Donald Trump's announcement that there were negotiations ongoing between Tehran and Washington. Iran has denied any talks are taking place, though its foreign minister has been talking to counterparts around the region. Iranian state television quoted Ali Abadi as saying, quote, Iran's powerful armed forces are proud, victorious, and steadfast in defending Iran's integrity, and this path will continue until complete victory. Bernie Bennett reporting.
More at townhall.com.
Coming to movie theaters from Sight and Sound Films.
George Whitfield has arrived to awaken the colonies.
One man was led by faith.
Arise! Come forth!
The other was a man of reason.
I am just the lightning rod. And who is the source, Ben?
This Easter weekend, an unlikely friendship shaped a nation.
One candle illuminates 1,000.
A great awakening. In theaters April 3rd. Rated PG-13.
Ongoing geopolitical tensions in the Middle East and beyond continue to shake global markets. Gold has responded by climbing to new highs as a proven safe haven against inflation. Silver follows strong, offering even more protection for diversified portfolios. Call True Gold Republic at 800-300-GOLD for your free guide on protecting your retirement. No obligation, just information. Consult your tax professional before investing. Call 800-300-4653. That's 800-300.
From the Michael's Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Pleasant temperatures today in the mid-60s under cloudy skies at times. Not a lot of sunshine, but very comfortable out. We're looking at lows tonight in the mid to upper 40s, so a chilly start to the day on Wednesday, but the high around 80 degrees. And then on Thursday, of course, is the home opener for the Cardinals. That temperature into the low 90s. That'll be a record high, but it won't be too humid. We'll have some cloud cover and a nice breeze. In the First Alert Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Business owners, download your free playbook for financial clarity at SerenityWealthBiz.com. That's SerenityWealthBiz.com.
Fox News commentary with Brian Kilmeade next.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Here's Brian Kilmeade.
The war with Iran may come down to two things: pain at the pump versus military victory. Because while missiles are flying overseas, Americans are feeling it at home. No doubt about it. Over the past 2 weeks, Iran-linked attacks have hit targets across the region. We watched them hit Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Oman, even Turkey, critical energy routes. And now the question isn't just military, it's economic. How much pain, economic pain that is, can the world take? But temporary sometimes doesn't feel temporary. At the same time, the mission itself is escalating and it's succeeding. The U.S. and Israel have already taken out a significant portion of Iran's leadership. The goal appears clear. Finish the job, Mr. President. The decades of malign terror activity will be over. The renegade nuke program that was uncontrolled and denied will be done before the economic pressure forces you to pause.
For more commentary like this, go to foxnewspodcast.com.
Free speech is alive and well in America right here.
It's about time somebody stood up for true American values.
What this country needs is some backbone.
Finally, a president who wants to make real change.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Tony Colombo here in studio with producer Ashlyn. Big thanks to Crane Durham for nothingbutTruth.com for joining us in that 2 o'clock hour. Now joining us on the line is the host of Red State Radio every Sunday afternoon, the co-host or here on News Talk STL, I should say, where that program is. The co-host of Mike Ferguson in the morning, every weekday morning here on News Talk STL. From Red State, redstate.com, number 10 in your programs, number 1 in our hearts. Great Susie Moore is on the line. Hi, Susie.
Hi.
How are you? Well,
you know,
before
just juggling a lot of things all at once.
A little this, a little that. How are you? So, before we get into anything, this is not how I meant to start this, but I just saw this video for the first time here at the break. Have you seen the whole story about the guy from Reacher beating up his neighbor? Alan Richardson? It's Richson. It's not Richardson. It's like Richson. Ritchson. Richson. This guy, have you ever, I've never watched that show, but I'm familiar with this actor. He's like huge. And that's like his character. Like his character is like this, like this big, huge badass, that, can beat everybody up. So he plays that well. He got into a fight with his neighbor in his subdivision and just like beat this guy up.
Well done, the guy, right?
And the video's out now. So I was just watching the video of Reacher beating up his neighbor.
So I saw that, like, the headline about it, and I think I even saw it yesterday, and I actually, like, saw, because, like, the autoplay on the video, but it was one of those things where it kind of flashed by, and I didn't stop and really dial in. So the impression I got was that this guy who's well-known for this TV series was beating the daylights out of his neighbor over some sort of neighborly dispute.
They were riding, him and his kids were riding their motorcycle. Yeah, I saw the story yesterday too, but I just saw the video for the first time, and it's really interesting. It doesn't, like, the story, we're so stupid, like, as people, as humans. Like, the story doesn't mean anything until we see the video, until, like, we realize, oh, geez, that guy just punched that guy in the face. Like, you can hear a story about, oh, so-and-so did this, or so-and-so assaulted this person, or blah, blah, blah. And it's like, for whatever reason, it doesn't register until you see the video. And then you're like, geez. I remember when, was it Ray Rice, the running back for the old running back for the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh,
He got in trouble for like domestic assault for like punching his wife. And at first he got like a 1 game. Yeah, he got like a 1 game suspension. It wasn't any big deal. And then the video came out and we saw the punch and the NFL went, "Oh, never mind. You're suspended for the whole year." It's like, it's the same thing. You knew what he did. You knew he punched his small, not professional athlete wife like he is. And yet when you hear about it, it's like, okay, yeah, that you shouldn't do that. Here's a 1 game suspension. And then you see the video and you're like, huh. Well, and it's not like this video is like brutal or anything, but it just brings, it just makes it more real. So I guess this guy was riding his motorcycle. The Reacher was riding his motorcycle with his 2 young sons. They were on their motorcycles also, like little like kid motorcycles. And I guess this has been an ongoing thing where this neighbor has said that Reacher and his kids like ride their motorcycles like too loud and too fast, like at dangerous speeds through the neighborhood. So these two have like gotten into it before. And this most recent one, it got physical. And this Reacher is just punching this guy as he's laying on the ground. He's still beating on him. He gets right back up. The neighbor gets right back up. So it doesn't look like he's got like any like major damage done to him. But geez, it's just still like it's still crazy to watch the video.
I mean, do we get any sense about whether there was any justification for this?
No, I mean,
or is it just like he just kicked him off? And
I know that nothing bugs me. That's an automatic like I'm like I have no patience for people who are driving too quick, driving too fast and dangerously through subdivision. We have tons of kids, especially right on my street in front of we're like where I moved is like the epicenter of kids, and we've got kids across the street and catty corner and my house, and they always are playing right there in the street. And anytime there's somebody that is just flying by too fast or have like revving their engine or whatever it may be, like I have no patience for that. And it sounds like that's what this Reacher guy was doing with his motorcycle. I don't mean to take this other guy's side, but I mean, from what we have.
So in the AITA battle, he's probably the A.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah. So if it's interesting to you, I don't know if anybody out there is a Reacher fan. Like I said, I've never seen the show. I don't watch TV at all.
That.
He's a big strapping young man. I'll tell you that. He doesn't look like anybody that you would want to mess with.
Show that I thought I watched I was thinking it was when I like looked at it, and then I was like, that's not the same guy I was thinking of. So
Right.
Unless they changed the main actor, it's a different show.
Gotcha. No, but the video's out there now. Of course, it's released by TMZ. It was recorded by I guess another neighbor who was like watching from their window inside their house and started recording on their phone and decided to make a bunch of money by selling it to TMZ. So you can go out there. And
more power to him, I guess.
We'll see how that goes. Maybe that'll be a court case that we're talking about in this segment one day down the line. But we'll have to see how it all plays out. All right, let's get down to some serious business here. The Supreme Court, the conservative judges, at least on the Supreme Court, have been signaling, according to reports, and you'll have to explain how this works. I don't know how justices signal the media or show, I don't know if this is like smoke signals or however they're doing this, to let the media know that they are thinking about or about ready to make a ruling or make some statement on an issue. But according to multiple news reports from multiple news platforms, the conservative justices on the Supreme Court are signaling that they are ready to curb late arriving ballots. So fill us in on this, and how do they send these signals, and how do we know if this is true, that this is something that the conservative justices are focused on right now?
So you know how when they elect a new pope, they send out a little puff of smoke? It's just like that. No, this is called bad journalism is what it is, or actually lazy journalism.
And I was afraid of that, but it's happening. But it's not just I'm sorry to cut you off, but I was afraid of that exact thing But then it was in multiple. It's like being reported like all over the place. So I was like, well,
okay.
So somebody's
So it's like the
onto
telephone
something.
game.
Yeah.
It's like the telephone game.
Yeah,
So first of all, that's the one thing you have to remember. It's using that term loosely, and all it means is when you listen to the way that they framed their questions and the types of questions that they asked during the oral argument, it sort of seemed like, reading between the lines, that they were probably leaning in a certain direction. That's all. I mean, it's just reading the tea leaves.
Gotcha.
So the signaling is just the tenor of their questioning.
Okay. Do you buy it? Do you think that there were those signals? Do you think that there was, like the questions were, obvious enough that this is something that the conservatives on the court, which have the majority on the court, would be, really looking towards the idea of making mail-in ballots that arrive after Election Day not countable in an election?
I wish I could tell you that, but because of the juggling that I'm doing on a regular basis, I haven't had a chance to go back and listen to the actual oral argument. So all I'm doing is relying on the, telephone game of other people reporting on it. And so I would just be basing it on what they're saying. If there are a number of people saying that, particularly court watchers, that probably means that's a fair interpretation. But again, it's just inferring based on the way they're asking questions. And you never know for sure until they come down with the opinion. Because sometimes they ask questions a certain way, and then you see their written opinion, you're like, okay, that wasn't really where I thought they were going with that, but okay.
Well, for the last 48 hours, that's been the number one story when it comes to Supreme Court news, because I was checking yesterday in my, in my show prep, and then again today, and if you look for Supreme Court news, that's the number one story across the board when it comes to the Supreme Court. And I bring that up because if it really is just people guessing, then that really makes me mad. And because if on such an important issue, like and controversy, like mail-in ballots are concerned, if we get all these words from experts, and that's why I love so much how you're able to come on here and tell the truth and really explain, what's happening, and when it's okay to get your hopes up, and when it's like, just why don't you take it down a notch and let's wait and see what happens. That there's now this, because it's been the main news story for the Supreme Court for the last 48 hours. Now, if it doesn't happen, or if it doesn't play out that way, you're going to have a whole bunch of people around the country going, wait a minute, I thought you guys were about ready to make a ruling. We were told that you were about ready to say that this wasn't legal. How come people are still voting, using mail-in ballots that show up a week after the election and they're being counted? I thought you were going to do away with that. And the court's going, we never said that. But that's how people are going
to. The court didn't say anything,
right? But that's what people are going to be upset about, right? I mean, they're going to think what happened here?
That's just the way media works these days, and maybe always. But keep in mind, think about sports journalism. Okay, you're sizing up, the Elite Eight and who's going to match up with who, and you're guessing based on how they played last weekend and what their various strengths are, what the outcome's going to be, and you're reporting on that. But all you're doing is making a prediction based on an educated guess. You're not actually reporting what actually happened yet, because it hasn't happened yet.
The other one that I wanted to ask you about, and this one is I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is exactly the same thing. This is literally the exact same situation. And from reading the various reports, the one I have right now is up from Politico, but I was reading one from Politico, I was reading one from The Guardian, I was reading one for stories about this from other platforms as well, so it's not like it's being only reported by one place. And it kind of reminds me of Bill Clinton when he said, depends on what your definition of the word is. This is the idea of what does it mean to be in the United States. And and there's all these reports that are saying, like this one, where was the headline? It was like U.S. Supreme Court appears sympathetic to Trump administration in asylum case. Which don't know if that's true or not. Again, it seems like they're just, like you said, reading the tea leaves or reading into what has been questioned. But I guess this one has to do with a case in front of the Supreme Court right now that has to do with when a person is granted, the ability to seek asylum. And I guess the way that the law is written now is that if you're in the United States, a person that is in the United States has that legal right to get an asylum hearing, and the conservatives on the court seem to be pushing back on what it means to be in the United States. For example, Justice Samuel Alito said, quote, "Do you think someone who comes to the front door of a house and knocks at the door has arrived in the house? The person may have arrived at the house, but not in the house," said Justice Samuel Alito. So, again, and then you've got Sotomayor, pushing back on that idea and saying that, like once you're at the border, once you're on the border, you're in the country, and that's when it kicks in. So again, all these headlines that say the Supreme Court a lot of it's tying Trump into it, because I guess that's the way you get more people to click on your headlines. The Trump administration's asylum case, that the Supreme Court appears sympathetic to Trump administration asylum case. Same thing, right, Susie? This is exactly that same thing of people just taking what the questions that these justices are asking or presenting in court and creating a narrative on what they think is going to be the ruling. Is that right?
Pretty much. So this was the oral argument that was one of the two cases that was argued before the court today. And it comes down to interpreting the statute. I mean, the statute's already there. Congress enacted the statute, and it has certain language in it. So the court's being asked to determine, okay, how does that really mean? Like, what is the practical effect of that? And so that's what they're trying to determine. And I know that that's like really annoying because you're talking about it turning on a word of in versus at. But since that's what the statute reads, I mean, the court can't rewrite the statute. They can only interpret it. And they can either say it's too vague, we can't, or based on, all of the legislative history surrounding it, based on what we know, based on other similar statutes and how they word this and how it's interpreted, this is the interpretation we're going with. And again, however they were framing their questions, the tenor of their questions, the way they were approaching the questioning today during the oral argument, court watchers are, going with what it seems like, what you can infer from that. It's all just predicting what's going to ultimately happen based on the way the justices sounded today.
With this case and with the case about the mail-in balloting, about counting the mail-in ballot votes, as much as we don't know, if this is truly the way that the justices are leaning, despite what's being reported in the news, these are cases that we will still get this year, right, before the deadline in June?
Correct.
So these will be...
Barring exigent circumstances, by the time the court ends its term at the end of June, possibly first day of July, yes, they will issue their opinions on these cases, and we will know how they're going to rule. Now, the only caveat I'm going to say is every once in a while, they're going to say, you know what, we're declining to decide this after all, or they'll say we need more argument on it, like they did with the Voting Rights Act case, which came up before them again this year, and we're waiting on that decision. But no, 99.9% of the time, yes, we're going to get those decisions by the end of the term.
And specifically on the mail-in ballot case, because that one could have, pretty impactful meaning on the midterm elections, because the idea of counting these ballots as much as a week or 10 days after Election Day, as long as the postmark is right or whatever, and, they mailed the votes in time, and that's been a big controversy and sticking point. So that could have some major impact on these. With the idea, because I know I moved I don't have my notes in front of me anymore. I thought we were moving on, and I thought I was moving on, and then I didn't. But it's a state. It's in Louisiana, I think, right?
Mississippi.
Mississippi. Okay, so it's a case out of Mississippi. So if they decide this, if the court does say, no, Mississippi, you can't count ballots, mail-in ballots that arrive after Election Day, will that only apply to Mississippi, or will that apply to states all across the country?
No, that's a really good question. This has to do with interpreting the federal statute that governs federal elections. And so when the court makes its determination about whether or not Election Day means Election Day and anything after that is no longer a part of it, that's going to affect everybody.
Gotcha. Okay, so it truly will have that major impact.
Mm-hmm.
And and I don't know.
Yeah, and Mississippi had a 5-day rule, but like you said, there's other states that have a 10-day rule. There's one, I think California has a 21-day rule.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. So if the court rules the way people are predicting they will, so that they're signaling they will, that will have an impact on the midterm election.
These are all these are the kind of cases that I really get like nerdy interested in as like a as a politics guy, but as a history buff, this is like part of the birthright citizenship conversation and the vote and how our elections work. Both of these, like whether even the asylum one, like are you in the United States or are you in the door or are you in the house or are you at the door? Like these are really, I think, like meaningful precedent setting basic foundation issues that are going to be solved this year. So there's I don't know, maybe it's like this every year, but I feel like this year there's some like really big decisions coming our way that are going to have permanent impact on this country. And I know every ruling does, but you know what I mean? Like this feels bigger to me than years past.
It does, but I think part of it is that you're probably a little more dialed in because there have been big consequential, decisions. Consider like the, Obamacare decision and the rolling back of the Chevron deference case, which had to do with regulations. I mean, there's been a lot of consequential decisions. Every year they rule on like 60, 65 cases, and the vast majority of those are on like kind of quirky procedural issues that are never going to impact you on a personal basis, so you don't really think about them and don't really hear about them. And there's always a handful of ones that are like, oh wow, well, that's kind of a big deal. Yeah. And so I don't think this year is any different in that regard. I think we're just a little more attuned to it.
Talking to Susie Moore, co-host of Mike Ferguson in the Morning every weekday here at News Talk STL. And moving off of the court cases for just a second. Only got a couple minutes left here with Susie, but I wanted to talk about this story because I think it's really interesting and I want to get your thoughts on it. The EU blocks U.S. vote to define gender as biological men and women at UN's Women's Forum. The United States stood alone after a European-led procedural move blocked a vote on defining gender in biological terms at one of the world's leading forums on women's rights. There's so much irony here. It's just crazy. At the conclusion of the UN Commission on the Status of Women, what an event. This was the UN Commission on the Status of Women. The U.S. was the only country to oppose the body's annual, quote, agreed conclusions, citing concerns that the language departs from biological definitions of women and girls. No other member state voted with the United States. At the center of the debate, or the center of the dispute, is how the United Nations defines gender. Current UN frameworks, rooted in the 1995 Beijing Declaration, do not provide a fixed definition and instead rely on evolving interpretations tied to broader concepts of gender identity, according to EU officials. The U.S. proposal sought to anchor the term explicitly in biological sex. The U.S. introduced a resolution titled Protection of Women and Girls Through Appropriate Terminology, which sought to clarify how gender is understood across UN policy. The draft states that the term gender should be interpreted, quote, according to its ordinary, generally accepted usage as referring to men and women. The proposal, however, never even reached a vote because no other country would go along with the United States. This is crazy. First of all, that this was the UN Commission on the Status of Women, and only one country, the United States, said, hey, from now on, when we're talking about women on the world stage, we're talking about people that were born women, right? Born girls. That's who we're talking about. And the UN's like, we can't really do that. Like, it's not that simple. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. That's simple. And to think that, the UN the hoity-toity, intellectuals of the world can't define what a boy or a girl is. It's just crazy to me. What do you make of this?
Well, I mean, they can, but the definition is whoever, whatever somebody claims to be or represents themselves to believe or feel like. Well, I mean, I think it's not terribly shocking, as much as there has been some swing back the other direction on this issue, even in Europe. Overall, there's still that sort of mentality, like you were just describing, that somehow you're above it all and you're making this very high class, highly, intellectual distinction between gender identity and biological sex, and it, it's just bending over backwards and acceding to the woke definition of things. And good for the U.S. for saying, hey, we would actually like to anchor this to something scientific, and not just keep it fluid and like whatever you feel like today. But that's an uphill battle right now, still in that arena anyway.
Yeah, or just making a fixed definition, period. Because that was the UN's argument, was that you should not, rooted in a decision made at the 1995 Beijing Declaration, that there should not be a fixed definition of gender. Mm-hmm. And instead, the UN should rely on, quote, evolving interpretations tied to broader concepts of gender identity. Like, we can't even agree, like, it's not even exactly like what you said of being like, well, if they just claim what they are, then they are. Like, they're saying, no, there's no fixed definition. It's just kind of a fluid thing that we figure out case by case and as we go, because we can't lock, it's so hard to tell and so confused. I mean, how could we ever know if somebody was a boy or a girl? If only there was a test. If only there was
what better way to celebrate and protect women than to say that we're not going to be able to acknowledge and define what they actually are.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the cherry on top of the irony, is that this was all done at the UN Commission on the Status of Women. This is
apparently still a wreck.
So stupid. Who knows? We don't know the status of women because we don't even know what a woman is. So
I know.
Anyway, just wanted to talk about that one because I knew it was going to be a mess, and it's fun to talk about. Susie Moore from Red State Radio, and Mike Ferguson in the morning. Every weekday starting at 5:30 a.m. right here on News Talk STL. Thank you, as always, so much for your time, my friend. We'll talk to you again very soon.
Thanks, Tony. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Great stuff there from Susie Moore. All right. Before we get out of here, I'm going to talk about, I touched on this yesterday, but I didn't get a chance to really dig into it. Second Amendment rights on the chopping block in Virginia. And, it's always important to talk about these issues because if they're happening in one state, they can happen in others. So I want to fill you in on what's going on there and more before we wrap things up and hand it off to the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show. You're listening to Colombo Company on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Follow Tony Colombo on Twitter at Tony Colombo Talk. News, analysis,
I'm glad you're talking about this.
Opinion.
I'm glad you're fired up about it, too, because I know I am.
News Talk STL.
Grasser Electric, not only the place to call if you are having any issues with your electric at your home or your business. They're also a great place to work if you or somebody your kids maybe, are going into the trades. We talk all the time about how these really, solid, high-paying, needed trade jobs are out there. Grasser Electric is just a perfect example of an awesome local family-owned business that could provide a great career for somebody looking to get in the trades. So not only a great place to call if you need help, but a great place to work if you're looking at going into that industry. Grasser, of course, specializes in all electrical needs, ranging from large-scale commercial projects all the way down to simple home service needs, like replacing a bad light switch. And we've had them in our house for just about everything across the board. And I can tell you from that personal experience that there is no better than the team at Grasser Electric. The techs, the people that come into your home are exactly the type of professionals that provide the type of, just work. They leave their area cleaner than they found it. And the professionalism is just exactly what you're looking for when you're letting somebody in your home to work on something as important as your electrical needs. Again, they cover all possible ranges in electrical service needs and can handle just about any electrical project you have in mind. They also offer free quotes for new projects. So if you have an electrical problem or just need a quote for new work, you need to contact Grasser now. You can learn more and follow them on their website. Just go to grasserelectric.com. If you need to contact them or learn more, that's the place to go. grasserelectric.com.
Spring has sprung at Daniel's Farming Greenhouses on Juggerman and St. Peters. Discover our breathtaking 55,000 square feet of greenhouses featuring 8,000 hanging baskets, hundreds of perennials, and 100,000 pots of colorful annuals. From vegetable plants to premium grass seed, mulch to herbs, our knowledgeable staff is ready to answer all your questions. Start spring off right with pansies, potted tulips, and everything your garden craves. Daniel's Farming Greenhouses. Visit us today on Juggerman or online at danielsfarminggreenhouses.com.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
I'm sure you're familiar with grading on a curve, taking a lower grade, making it better. But is that a good idea? Consider the student who works really hard to get top scores. Then if the teacher grades on a curve, the top scoring student gets nothing. Those not preparing get lifted to a higher grade. Where's the incentive for the A-plus student to do better? Where's the incentive for a C-, even a D student, when a curve turns those grades into a solid C, maybe a B-? A new study finds all of this actually sabotages a student's future. But high schools and colleges like to show how great the students are doing. But a lie is a lie. I recall one time one of my daughters was cooking something. Why? The French teacher was giving extra credit for cooking special French cookies. I didn't think that's a good way to learn French. I complained to the teacher, who responded in something in French. Now, I had been a C French student, and I'm not really sure what she did say, but I wanted to say, pardon your French.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Previously, I've told you about dustless blasting, a special service offered by Wellington Environmental. It could work for you in your place. Recently, a crew removed a driveway sealer that had failed. The owner wanted to go back to the original concrete so it could be properly sealed. Dustless blasting worked. That homeowner is happy. Now, sometimes surfaces need pressure washing instead of blasting. In fact, there was an exterior stone fireplace cleansed by pressure washing, and when it dried, all the dark stain was gone. That stone had its original appearance. Wellington is versatile with blasting. Dustless blasting or whatever you need. They will evaluate and make a decision. How do you get them to your door? Very easy. Call 314-644-4930. 644-4930. Wellington Environmental, making your world great. In fact, be safe, be well with Wellington Environmental.
Cardinal Nation, it's time to paint the town red.
Opening day of Cardinal baseball at Busch Stadium.
And there's nothing else like it.
It's a St. Louis tradition.
Two things define St. Louis: Cardinal baseball and News Talk STL.
Play ball!
Cardinal baseball opening day, March 26th, backed by our hometown favorites, Dushan High School, Freddy's Market, and D. Gregorio's Food Products.
Cardinal baseball!
Rhino Shield is engineered to outlast paint, formulated to outsmart the elements. Rain or shine, sleet or snow, mold or mildew. Our home exterior coatings intelligently designed to stand up to Mother Nature. Call 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
The story behind the story. The 2009 massacre at Fort Hood.
Larry Connors USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. A little bit more to go here before we hand things off to the O'Reilly Report, the Tim Jones and Chris Harp Show. I touched on this yesterday, but just to give you some details, and again, this is so important because this is happening in one state in the country. It can happen anywhere, and it's important to, to be aware of what's happening around this country. On March 14th, 10 days ago, the Virginia General Assembly wrapped their 2026 legislative session. We talk a lot about our legislative session. We're actually checking tomorrow with our Missouri political insider, Rodney Boyd, as we're just only about halfway through our legislative session here in Missouri. Well, theirs wrapped in Virginia about 10 days ago, a week and a half ago, and in just 60 days, the anti-gun left that runs that state has nearly undone all of the gun rights for millions of law-abiding Virginia residents. They rammed through over 15 pieces of anti-gun legislation in those 60 days. The crown jewel, and that's what they call it, was Senate Bill 749 and House Bill 217, which is the so-called assault weapons ban. All of this, of course, under the direction of the new governor there in Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, and she's expected to sign all of these laws, all these bills into law as soon as they reach her desk. 15 pieces of anti-gun legislation in just 60 days. It makes you wonder if they were able to do anything else in their legislative session in Virginia this year. But again, if that type of urgency and insistence on taking away your Second Amendment rights exists in Virginia, don't think that it doesn't exist in other places around the country, and it's not important to keep an eye on. We're going to get the latest on the negotiation between the DHS, between the Republicans and Democrats when it comes to DHS funding. All on another, we talked about that with Crane a lot in the 2 o'clock hour, but a new report shows that over 450 officers have quit nationwide TSA. So that issue continues to grow and continues to be one that we are going to keep an eye on, and we'll pick up on all these important things when we get back here tomorrow at 2. In the meantime, make sure you're subscribed to our podcast. It's the best way to make sure you never miss anything that happens here on the show. We put the show out as a podcast right after we get off the air every day. We put it on basically every podcast platform. So wherever you get podcasts on that platform, just make sure you're subscribed to Colombo and Company. All right, keep it here for the O'Reilly Report next, followed by the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show, and we will see you back here tomorrow at 2. You're listening to 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
I'm Jen Wallner.
And I'm Rodney Wallner with the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway.
Hey, Rodney, how do you sell your home for top dollar?
That's easy. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What if I want a flexible commission rate?
Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
When's the best time to sell your home?